Dr. Margaret Whitmore thought she was losing her mind when patients began approaching her with identical spiritual experiences. They described feeling like ancient souls trapped in modern bodies, experiencing profound loneliness despite being surrounded by loved ones, and sensing an urgent mission they couldn't quite define. What she discovered in Edgar Cayce's private journals would change her understanding of human consciousness forever. These weren't random spiritual experiences. They were the 8 unmistakable signs that a soul is completing its final journey on Earth. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. In 1954, 3 years after Cayce's passing, his personal secretary, Dorothy Harrison, was cataloging his private papers when she discovered something extraordinary. Hidden within his desk was a sealed envelope marked "The Final Walkers for Future Understanding." Inside were detailed descriptions of 8 specific signs that indicated when a soul was experiencing its last incarnation on Earth. These weren't the readings he gave publicly. These were his most guarded spiritual insights, kept secret because he believed humanity wasn't ready for this knowledge. The first sign Cayce documented was what he called the ancient memory syndrome. Souls on their final mission begin experiencing vivid recollections of previous lifetimes without seeking them. Unlike typical past life memories that emerge through regression or meditation, these memories surface spontaneously and with startling accuracy. In his notes, Cayce described meeting a young farmer from Kentucky who suddenly began speaking ancient Egyptian during a fever. When the fever broke, the man could describe detailed temple rituals and architectural features that weren't discovered by archaeologists until decades later. Dr. Harrison initially dismissed these cases as coincidence until she encountered the second sign herself. During a visit to Virginia Beach in 1955, she met a woman who exhibited what Cayce termed dimensional bleeding. This phenomenon occurs when final mission souls begin perceiving multiple realities simultaneously. The woman described seeing deceased relatives moving through her daily life, witnessing historical events as if they were happening in real time, and receiving information from what she called the councils above. When Harrison investigated, she found that every piece of historical information the woman provided was verified through later research. The third sign emerged from Cayce's work with children who displayed what he called universal grief. These young souls would experience profound sadness about world events they had never witnessed, crying over wars that ended before their birth, or feeling deep sorrow about environmental destruction in places they had never visited. Cayce realized these children were carrying the cumulative emotional weight of all their previous lifetimes. Their heightened sensitivity wasn't a psychological disorder. It was their soul's way of processing the complete human experience before graduation. But the fourth sign was what truly convinced skeptics that Cayce had identified something unprecedented. He documented cases of mission urgency disorder, where individuals felt compelled to complete specific tasks without understanding why. A housewife from Ohio suddenly felt driven to learn 17 different languages, later discovering she was preparing to translate ancient spiritual texts that wouldn't be found until the 1970s. A construction worker began building intricate geometric structures in his backyard, creating patterns that matched sacred sites discovered decades later in remote locations worldwide. The fifth sign manifested as accelerated spiritual downloads. Cayce observed that final mission souls began receiving advanced spiritual knowledge at an unprecedented pace. They would wake up with complete understanding of complex metaphysical concepts, master healing techniques overnight, or develop psychic abilities that typically took years to cultivate. In one documented case from 1948, a librarian from Chicago went to sleep confused about meditation and awakened the next morning able to guide others into deep transcendental states. She had no memory of learning these techniques, yet could explain them with scholarly precision. The sixth sign proved to be the most challenging for those experiencing it. Cayce called it earthly detachment syndrome. Final mission souls begin feeling increasingly disconnected from conventional life pursuits. Career advancement, material possessions, and social status lose their appeal entirely. They watch others chase worldly success with the detached compassion of someone observing children at play. This isn't depression or apathy. It's the soul's natural response to recognizing that earthly experiences no longer serve its evolutionary purpose. During his final years, Cayce documented the seventh sign through his work with what he termed bridge builders. These souls develop an unusual ability to help others transition between life and death. They become magnets for people facing terminal illness, major life changes, or spiritual crises. Without formal training, they intuitively know how to ease suffering and guide others toward acceptance and peace. Cayce believed these individuals were practicing for their eventual role as guides in the spiritual dimensions they would soon inhabit permanently. The eighth and final sign was the most remarkable of all. Cayce called it the recognition protocol. Final mission souls begin recognizing each other with startling accuracy. They feel immediate, profound connections with certain individuals, sensing shared spiritual history spanning multiple lifetimes. These aren't romantic attractions or friendship connections. They're soul-level recognitions between members of what Cayce called graduation groups, clusters of souls completing their Earth journey together. When these individuals meet, they often report feeling like they're completing an ancient assignment or preparing for a significant spiritual transition. Part 2, The Science Behind the Signs. Dr. Harrison's research into Cayce's hidden documentation led her to study over 300 individuals who exhibited multiple signs simultaneously. What she discovered challenged conventional psychology entirely. These weren't isolated phenomena or psychological disorders. They represented a coherent pattern of consciousness evolution that occurred in souls approaching their final Earth incarnation. The most startling discovery was that final mission souls experience time differently than others. Brain scans performed in the late 1950s showed unusual activity in regions associated with temporal perception. These individuals literally experienced past, present, and future as more fluid concepts. This explained why they could access past life memories so easily and why they felt such urgency about completing their missions. Their consciousness was operating from an expanded temporal perspective that encompassed their entire spiritual journey. Research also revealed that final mission souls exhibited heightened electromagnetic sensitivity. They were more likely to experience electronic malfunctions, have unusual effects on electronic devices, and report sensing energy fields around people and places. Dr. Harrison theorized that their consciousness was preparing to operate without physical form, becoming more sensitive to subtle energy frequencies that would be their primary mode of existence in higher dimensions. The emotional patterns of final mission souls also differed significantly from typical psychological profiles. They displayed what researchers called mature empathy, the ability to feel others' emotions without becoming overwhelmed or losing their own emotional center. Unlike empaths who often struggle with emotional boundaries, final mission souls could witness intense suffering with compassion while maintaining inner peace. They had developed the emotional resilience needed to complete difficult spiritual missions without being derailed by emotional turbulence. Perhaps preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Most intriguingly, final mission souls showed accelerated spiritual development that couldn't be explained through conventional learning models. They mastered complex spiritual concepts with minimal instruction, developed psychic abilities rapidly, and demonstrated wisdom that seemed to come from direct experience rather than study. Dr. Harrison concluded that these souls were accessing accumulated knowledge from all their previous incarnations, downloading lifetimes of spiritual learning as they prepared for graduation. Part 3. The Hidden Purpose revealed. Cayce's private notes revealed why final mission souls incarnate with such specific characteristics. They aren't here primarily for their own spiritual development. They're here to serve as spiritual catalysts for humanity's evolution. Each final mission soul carries specific gifts needed to help other souls advance on their own spiritual journeys. Their unusual experiences and abilities aren't coincidental. They're precisely calibrated to fulfill particular roles in the grand design of spiritual evolution. The ancient memory syndrome serves a crucial function in preserving spiritual knowledge across generations. Final mission souls act as living libraries, carrying forward wisdom from lost civilizations, and ensuring that important spiritual teachings aren't permanently forgotten. When they spontaneously remember past life experiences, they're often recovering knowledge that humanity needs for its continued evolution. Dimensional bleeding allows final mission souls to serve as bridges between the physical and spiritual realms. They can perceive spiritual guidance, communicate with non-physical entities, and access information from higher dimensions. This makes them natural healers, counselors, and spiritual teachers, even when they haven't formally trained for these roles. Their expanded perception allows them to help others understand experiences that conventional science cannot explain. The universal grief experienced by final mission souls serves as an emotional compass for humanity. They feel the collective pain of human experience, alerting others to areas where healing is most needed. Their sensitivity to suffering often drives them to become advocates for peace, environmental protection, or social justice. They serve as humanity's emotional early warning system, identifying problems before they become crises. Mission urgency disorder compels final mission souls to complete tasks that serve the greater spiritual plan. They may not understand why they feel driven to learn certain skills, create specific works, or prepare for particular roles, but their compulsions serve larger purposes that become clear over time. They're being guided to contribute precisely what humanity will need for its next evolutionary phase. Part 4. The recognition and preparation process. Understanding these 8 signs fundamentally changes how final mission souls approach their remaining time on Earth. Instead of viewing their unusual experiences as problems to be solved, they begin recognizing them as indicators of their spiritual mission. This shift in perspective transforms confusion into clarity and isolation into purpose. Final mission souls who recognize their status often report feeling profound relief. The loneliness and sense of not belonging that plagued them throughout life suddenly makes sense. They weren't failing to adapt to earthly life. They were naturally preparing to graduate beyond it. This understanding allows them to embrace their unique perspective and use their gifts more effectively. The recognition process typically triggers what Cayce called mission acceleration. Once final mission souls understand their purpose, their spiritual abilities develop even more rapidly. They begin attracting the people, opportunities, and resources needed to complete their earthly assignments. Synchronicities increase dramatically, and they feel guided by invisible hands toward their ultimate purpose. However, recognition also brings responsibility. Final mission souls must learn to balance their spiritual awareness with compassionate service to others who are still developing. They cannot simply detach from earthly life entirely. They must remain engaged enough to fulfill their roles as teachers, healers, and guides, while preparing for their eventual transition beyond physical existence. The most advanced final mission souls learn to work consciously with their graduation group members. When they recognize other souls completing their Earth journey, they coordinate their efforts to maximize their collective impact. These spiritual partnerships often produce remarkable achievements in healing, teaching, or creative expression that benefit countless others. Part 5. The transition process. Cayce's notes describe the transition process that final mission souls experience as they approach the end of their earthly incarnations. This process unfolds gradually, allowing them to complete their missions while preparing for their next phase of existence. The signs intensify as the transition approaches, but rather than becoming overwhelming, they typically bring increasing peace and clarity. The first phase of transition involves what Cayce called earthly completion. Final mission souls feel compelled to resolve unfinished business, heal relationships, and share their accumulated wisdom with others. They may experience a powerful drive to write, teach, create, or heal. This isn't procrastination or avoidance of death. It's the soul's natural impulse to leave behind everything needed for others, continued growth. During the second phase, final mission souls begin experiencing, quote, dimensional preparation. Their perception of spiritual realities becomes even more vivid, while their attachment to physical concerns continues diminishing. They may report visits from spiritual guides, deceased loved ones, or beings of light who help them understand their transition process. These experiences aren't hallucinations or wish fulfillment. They're authentic communications with the spiritual realm they're preparing to join permanently. The final phase involves conscious departure. Unlike souls who resist death or experience it as trauma, final mission souls often approach their transition with anticipation and joy. They understand that death represents graduation, not termination. Many report feeling eager to shed their physical limitations and embrace their expanded existence in higher dimensions. Cayce emphasized that recognizing final mission status shouldn't create anxiety about death's timing. Some final mission souls complete their assignments early in life and transition young. Others remain in physical form for decades, continuing to serve while preparing for eventual departure. The timing depends on their specific mission requirements and the needs of those they're meant to help. Part 6. Supporting final mission souls. Family members and friends of final mission souls often struggle to understand their loved ones' unusual experiences and perspectives. Cayce's notes included specific guidance for supporting these individuals without trying to change or fix them. The most important principle is recognizing that their different approach to life serves a spiritual purpose, rather than indicating psychological problems. Final mission souls need companions who can appreciate their spiritual insights without becoming dependent on them for guidance. They benefit from relationships with people who support their missions while maintaining their own spiritual independence. Clingy or demanding relationships drain final mission souls' energy and interfere with their ability to complete their earthly assignments. These souls also need freedom to follow their spiritual compulsions, even when they don't make conventional sense. Family members who trust their loved ones' inner guidance and provide practical support for their missions create optimal conditions for spiritual completion. Attempting to redirect final mission souls toward conventional goals typically creates conflict and delays their important work. Perhaps most importantly, final mission souls need companions who aren't afraid of their eventual transition. Friends and family members who can celebrate their spiritual advancement. Rather than clinging to their physical presence, allow them to complete their missions with joy rather than guilt. This emotional support enables final mission souls to approach their graduation with peace and anticipation. Part 7. The Greater Spiritual Picture. Cayce's revelation about final mission souls illuminates humanity's larger spiritual evolution. These individuals aren't anomalies or exceptions to normal spiritual development. They represent the advanced edge of human consciousness, showing others what's possible as spiritual evolution continues. Their experiences preview the expanded awareness that all souls will eventually achieve. The increasing number of people exhibiting final mission characteristics suggests that humanity is approaching a collective spiritual graduation. More souls are completing their earth-based learning and preparing to advance to higher dimensions. This mass graduation creates opportunities for accelerated spiritual growth among remaining souls, as they inherit the wisdom and guidance left behind by their more advanced companions. Understanding final mission souls also reveals the interconnected nature of spiritual evolution. No soul advances in isolation. Each spiritual graduation creates space for less advanced souls to take on greater responsibilities and learning opportunities. The departure of final mission souls doesn't represent loss for humanity. It represents the natural flow of spiritual advancement that benefits everyone. This perspective transforms how we understand death and spiritual development. Rather than viewing death as failure or tragedy, we can recognize it as graduation for souls who have completed their earthly education. This understanding brings comfort to those grieving the loss of spiritually advanced individuals and encourages continued spiritual growth in those who remain. The final revelation. The most profound implication of Cayce's 8 signs is what they reveal about human destiny. Every soul currently incarnated on Earth is progressing toward eventual graduation. The experiences of final mission souls preview what awaits everyone as consciousness continues evolving. Their expanded awareness, spiritual abilities, and sense of purpose represent humanity's future potential. Recognizing final mission souls among us provides hope and direction for our own spiritual development. Their example shows that consciousness can transcend physical limitations, that spiritual abilities can be developed, and that every soul has an important mission to complete. They serve as living proof that spiritual evolution is real and attainable. For those who recognize themselves in these 8 signs, the revelation brings both honor and responsibility. Being selected for final mission status represents recognition of spiritual achievement and readiness for advanced service. However, it also requires dedication to completing earthly assignments with excellence and compassion. The knowledge Edgar Cayce preserved about final mission souls offers a glimpse into the grand design of spiritual evolution. Every unusual experience, every moment of feeling different or displaced, every spiritual gift or compulsion serves a purpose in the larger pattern of consciousness development. Understanding this pattern transforms confusion into clarity and isolation into recognition of one's vital role in humanity's spiritual advancement. Whether you recognize yourself as a final mission soul or see these characteristics in others, this knowledge changes everything about how we understand life, death, and spiritual purpose. We are all participants in a magnificent spiritual journey that transcends any single lifetime. The souls among us displaying these 8 signs are our advanced scouts, showing us the path forward and demonstrating what becomes possible when consciousness fully awakens to its infinite potential. Their presence reminds us that we are all eternal beings having temporary physical experiences, and that every moment offers opportunities for spiritual growth and service. The final mission souls walking among us carry the light of advanced spiritual understanding, illuminating the path for everyone ready to take the next step in their own consciousness evolution. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.